I never thought of myself as the kind of woman who expected surprises. Life had fallen into a predictable rhythm: morning coffee, errands, a quiet house, and a husband who spoke more to his emails than to me. I'd convinced myself that this was just how love worked: no excitement, just endurance. Then that day happened. My car sputtered to a stop on a deserted street. Typical. I sighed, tapping my fingers on the steering wheel as I reached for my phone. My husband wouldn't pick up. He never did. So I called my son, hoping for a solution. "Mom, I can't come right now," he said, frustration in his voice. "But I'll send Ethan. Ethan, my son's best friend." It had been months, maybe longer, since I'd last seen him. He was always the polite, lanky kid who'd raid my fridge and call me ma'am with a teasing grin. I had no choice but to accept the help. 15 minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up. Ethan stepped out, but he wasn't the same boy I remembered. Gone was the awkward teenager, replaced by a confident, broad-shouldered man, his dark hair tousled and jaw more defined. His presence felt different, almost overwhelming. For a moment, I couldn't reconcile the image of the boy in my mind with the man before me. "Hey, Mrs. Carter," he greeted with a grin. "Need a lift?" I forced a smile, brushing off the strange warmth that stirred in my chest. "Looks like it," I said, sliding into his car. The air in the car felt charged. It wasn't just that he'd grown up. It was the way he carried himself, the easy confidence in his posture, the way his eyes lingered on me when he thought I wasn't looking. "Been a while since I've seen you," he remarked, his eyes flickering over me before returning to the road. "Yes," I replied, folding my hands in my lap. "You've changed," he chuckled. "Guess growing up does that." The conversation was effortless, but underneath, something simmered. I noticed the deep timbre of his voice, the way his fingers tapped the steering wheel, the faint scent of his cologne filling the car. It was nothing. Just nerves, I told myself. At a red light, he turned toward me, his gaze lingering. "You haven't changed at all." The way he said it made my pulse stutter. I laughed nervously, brushing off the tension. "That's what happens when you hit a certain age. You just settle." His jaw tensed slightly, but he didn't say anything. The light turned green, and we drove the rest of the way in silence. When we arrived home, I thanked him and reached for the door, but before I could step out, his voice stopped me. "You don't have to settle, you know." I turned, surprised. There was something unreadable in his expression, something that made my breath catch. "See you around, Mrs. Carter," he said, his smile casual, but his eyes held something deeper. I stepped out, heart pounding in a way that had nothing to do with the broken car. I told myself it was nothing, just a fleeting moment, a passing thought. But as the days passed, I couldn't shake the memory of that drive, the way Ethan had looked at me, the weight of his words. It was ridiculous, I told myself. I was reading into something that wasn't there. And yet, when I saw him again, unplanned, it was as if everything shifted. I was in the grocery store, distracted, reaching for something on the top shelf, when a warm presence appeared behind me. "Need some help?" His voice was deep, smooth. I knew it before I even turned around. I stepped back, heart giving a little jolt. Ethan stood there grinning effortlessly, grabbing the item and handing it to me. "Fancy running into you here." I forced a casual smile, trying to ignore the way his eyes lingered on me, slow and deliberate. "Just getting a few things," I said, my voice tight. "Me too," he replied, holding up a basket. But I barely noticed it. He was standing too close, his body radiating warmth, his presence overwhelming in a way that made my skin prickle. "Well, thanks for the help," I said quickly, gripping the box like a lifeline. But before I could turn away, he leaned in slightly. "Can I ask you something?" My breath hitched. "Of course." His gaze held mine, unreadable. "Are you happy?" I froze. The question, so simple, felt like he had reached inside me and pulled out something raw, something I hadn't dared to acknowledge. I should have laughed it off, changed the subject, walked away. Instead, I hesitated. Ethan didn't press, but he didn't look away either. He was waiting, watching. I exhaled, forcing a small smile. Of course I am. A flicker of something passed through his expression, but he didn't call me out on the lie. He just nodded. Good, he said. As if sensing my need to escape, he stepped back. See you around, Mrs. Carter. I left the store quickly, heart hammering. That night, sitting at the dinner table with my husband, him glued to his phone, mumbling about work, I heard the question again. Are you happy? Days passed, but it didn't stop. I'd find myself